Amelia Barrett stood in the shadows of her husband's ambitions for 15 years. Richard, with his sharp features and sharper business acumen, had been a struggling financial advisor when they met. She'd fallen for his vision, his determination. In the gentle way he'd once held her hand across candlelit tables in restaurants they could barely afford. "I believe in you," she'd whispered during those early years, working double shifts at the hospital as a nurse to support them, while Richard pursued his dream of opening his own investment firm. Their modest apartment became a war room of spreadsheets and business plans. Amelia would bring him coffee at midnight, massage his tense shoulders, and listen to his strategies even when exhaustion pulled at her eyelids. "When we make it, Leah, it'll all be worth it," Richard would say, using the nickname only he was allowed to use. She postponed her own dreams, a small wellness clinic she'd sketched plans for during nursing school to fuel his. When Richard needed capital for his first office space, Amelia sold the vintage jewelry her grandmother had left her. "You're the foundation of everything I'm building," he told her. The day Barrett Financial opened its doors, the firm struggled initially. Amelia remembered the night Richard came home, despair etched on his face after losing a major client. She'd held him, her quiet strength flowing into him until his shoulders stopped shaking. "We'll find a way," she promised, and they did. Amelia introduced Richard to Dr. Thomas Winston, a wealthy physician she'd cared for during his hospital stay. The connection led to Richard's first significant clients, medical professionals with substantial portfolios. As years passed, Barrett Financial grew steadily. Richard's confidence transformed into something harder, more polished. Their modest home became a sleek penthouse. Richard replaced his worn suits with bespoke ones that cost more than their first car. Amelia watched the transformation with pride, tinged with worry. Sometimes, when Richard returned from business trips, she caught him looking at her as if measuring her against some invisible standard. "You could update your wardrobe," he suggested one evening. "We have an image to maintain now." Amelia complied, though the designer clothes felt like costumes. She played hostess at business dinners, the perfect supportive wife. Even as she felt Richard drifting further into a world where she increasingly felt like an outsider. The Barrett Financial 10th Anniversary Gala marked the zenith of Richard's success and the beginning of his moral decline. The event, held at the Luminescent Hotel's Grand Ballroom, showcased everything Richard had achieved and everything he now believed he deserved. Amelia wore a midnight blue gown that evening, her honey-brown hair swept into an elegant updo. She moved through the crowd of financial elites with practiced grace, though few guests acknowledged her beyond perfunctory smiles. To them, she was merely an accessory to Richard's success story. That night, Nessa Winters entered their lives like a perfectly timed stock market disruption. The marketing executive from Meridian Investments commanded attention in her crimson dress and razor-sharp confidence. Amelia noticed how Richard's eyes followed Vanessa across the room, his expression shifting to something hungry and reckless. "Richard seems captivated by the woman in red," observed Patricia Greenwood, a longtime client's wife. "He's networking," Amelia replied smoothly, though unease flickered through her. The following weeks brought late nights at the office and weekend emergency meetings. Richard's excuses grew elaborate, but his cologne carried unfamiliar perfume notes. His phone remained perpetually face dashed down. Amelia confronted him one evening in his home office. "Is there someone else?" Richard's denial came too quickly, too rehearsed. "Don't be ridiculous, Leah. I'm building an empire." But empires require sacrifices, and Amelia soon discovered she would be the offering. 3 months after the gala, Richard requested a divorce over breakfast, his tone as casual, as if discussing the weather forecast. "Vanessa understands my world, my ambitions," he explained, not meeting Amelia's eyes. "You've become comfortable, Leah. I need someone who elevates my position, not someone content to remain in the background." The cruelty of his words struck Amelia like physical blows. 15 years of devotion dismissed as comfortable. "I've supported you through everything," she whispered. Richard's expression hardened. "And I'm grateful. You'll be taken care of financially within reason." But Barrett Financial is poised to partner with Meridian Investments. Vanessa's connections are invaluable. This is business, not personal. Amelia watched him pack his designer, suits his expression, revealing no remorse for dismantling their life together. 2 days later, society columns featured photos of Richard and Vanessa at exclusive restaurants, his hand possessively at the small of her back. The divorce proceedings were swift and clinical. Richard's attorneys portrayed Amelia as a simple nurse who had contributed nothing substantial to his success, offering her a settlement that represented a fraction of their actual worth. The modest envelope arrived 3 weeks after Richard left. Amelia almost discarded it among the sympathy cards and divorce paperwork cluttering her kitchen counter. The return addressed Blackwood and Hayes. Attorneys at law meant nothing to her. Inside was a letter that would transform her narrative. Dear Ms. Amelia Barrett Nee Westbrook, it began. Following the recent passing of your father, Douglas Westbrook, we are instructed to inform you of your inheritance. Amelia sank into a chair, hands trembling. The father who had abandoned her mother when Amelia was just 5 years old had apparently been watching her from afar. Douglas Westbrook, she learned, had built Westbrook Industries into a financial powerhouse before selling most holdings except for controlling interest in Meridian Investments, the very company Richard was courting. The inheritance was substantial, $30 million in diversified assets and 26% ownership of Meridian. There were also personal items. Photographs of Amelia's graduations, newspaper clippings of her volunteer work, and a handwritten letter expressing regret for his absence. Never stopped loving you, explained Eleanor Hayes, the silver-haired attorney who visited Amelia the following day. Douglas was a complicated man who made terrible personal choices, but he followed your life from a distance. Why didn't he contact me? Amelia asked, still processing the revelation. Pride, shame, fear, the usual barriers, Eleanor replied. But he made certain your future would be secure. Eleanor outlined the full extent of Amelia's new position. Beyond the financial windfall, she now held significant influence in the business world Richard so desperately wanted to conquer. Meridian's board meeting occurs next month, Eleanor explained. They'll vote on the proposed partnership with Barrett Financial. It's a major shareholder. Your voice carries considerable weight. For days, Amelia contemplated her options. Woman who had always put others first, now held power she never sought. She remembered Richard's dismissive words. This is business, not personal. Amelia hired a financial advisor not from Barrett Financial and began educating herself about investment strategies and corporate governance. She read company reports late into the night, learning the language that Richard had never bothered to teach her. You're a natural, her advisor commented, surprised by her quick grasp of complex financial concepts. Amelia smiled. I've been watching and listening for 15 years. I just never had the opportunity to speak as the board meeting approached. Amelia made no announcement of her inheritance or position. Richard remained unaware that his ex-wife now held the key to his most coveted business alliance. The Meridian Investments boardroom exuded power with its mahogany table and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the financial district. Richard arrived early, impeccably dressed and radiating confidence. Vanessa accompanied him, her presence intended to cement their personal and professional alliance. The board is practically guaranteed to approve our partnership, she assured him, adjusting his already perfect tie. I've been laying the groundwork for months. Neither noticed Amelia's arrival until she was seated at the far end of the table, reviewing documents with Eleanor Hayes. Richard froze. What is she doing here? Before Vanessa could respond, Marcus Donovan, Meridian's CEO, called the meeting to order. Before we begin, I'd like to welcome our significant shareholder, Ms. Amelia Westbrook Barrett, daughter of our founder Douglas Westbrook. The color drained from Richard's face. Across the table, Vanessa's expression shifted from confusion to calculation when the proposed Barrett Meridian partnership came up for discussion. Amelia spoke with quiet authority. While Barrett Financial appears profitable on paper, I have concerns about its long-term stability and ethical practices. She presented documentation revealing how Richard had exaggerated company performance to potential investors. Furthermore, Mr. Barrett's personal conduct demonstrates questionable judgment and loyalty traits that should concern anyone entering a business relationship. The board members exchanged glances. Richard attempted to interject, but Amelia continued. I propose instead that Meridian considers partnering with Thornfield Investments, whose ethical standards and performance metrics show greater promise. This is absurd, Richard finally sputtered. She knows nothing about finance, she's a nurse. Marcus Donovan raised an eyebrow. Ms. Barrett's analysis is quite sophisticated, actually. And as the holder of 26% of Meridian shares, her recommendation carries significant weight. The vote that followed was devastating for Richard. The board unanimously rejected the Barrett Financial Partnership as the meeting concluded. Vanessa approached not Richard, but Amelia. I had no idea about your connection to Meridian, she said, her voice honeyed with new respect. Perhaps we could discuss potential collaborations. Amelia regarded her coolly. I believe you're already collaborating with my ex-husband. Business. Is business, Vanessa replied with a dismissive wave. Richard served his purpose in bringing this opportunity to my attention, but clearly you're the more valuable connection. Richard overheard the exchange, watching in stunned silence as Vanessa handed Amelia her business card before departing without a backward glance in his direction. Outside the building, rain matched Richard's darkening mood. His phone buzzed with messages from anxious investors who had already heard about the failed partnership. 6 months after the Meridian board meeting, Amelia stood in the sunlit space that would soon become Westbrook Wellness Center, the dream she had deferred. For so long, the building, once a neglected historical property, is being transformed into a holistic healthcare facility combining traditional and complementary medicine. The contractor says we're on schedule for a spring opening, said Jonathan Reeves, running his hand along a freshly plastered wall. The architect had become an unexpected blessing in Amelia's life. His thoughtful nature and genuine interest in her vision sparking a connection that had gradually deepened into something more. Unlike Richard, Jonathan listened when Amelia spoke, and valued her opinions not as accessories to his own but as independent thoughts worth consideration. His calm presence helped heal wounds Richard's betrayal had left. I never thanked you properly, Amelia said, for taking on this project when every other architect said the building couldn't be saved. Jonathan smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. You saw potential where others saw problems. That's a rare quality, Amelia. Across town, Richard Barrett sat alone in his downsized office. Barrett Financial had survived, but diminished considerably after losing several key clients following the Meridian rejection. Vanessa had departed for London with a Meridian executive shortly after discovering Richard's reduced circumstances. A magazine on his desk featured Amelia on its cover. Healthcare, Innovator Transforms Investment Approach, detailing how she had redirected portions of her inheritance toward healthcare initiatives in underserved communities. Richard traced her photographed face, remembering when she had looked at him with the same determination she now directed toward her own ambitions. He had discarded her loyalty for Vanessa's ambition, only to discover that both women possessed what he lacked, the vision to see beyond immediate gain. That evening, Amelia and Jonathan shared dinner on her balcony, overlooking the city lights. She wore no designer label, just a simple dress and the confidence of a woman who had reclaimed her narrative. To new beginnings, Jonathan toasted, his eyes reflecting genuine admiration. Amelia smiled, thinking of the long journey from shadow to substance. The secret her father left had given her financial freedom, but the strength to build something meaningful from that gift had always been within her, waiting for the moment she would finally step into her own light. To living authentically, she replied, her glass touching his as the city sparkled below. Full of possibilities she was finally free to explore as they enjoyed their evening. Amelia's phone chimed with an email notification. She almost ignored it, but something made her glance down. A sender. Richard Barrett. The subject line. One last request. Amelia hesitated, her finger hovering over the screen. The past she had finally put behind her was suddenly reaching forward, demanding one final reckoning. She looked up at Jonathan, then back at the unopened message that threatened to unravel her carefully reconstructed piece. Some doors, once closed, should remain so yet. Sometimes the most powerful closure comes from turning the key one last time. Is everything okay? Jonathan asked, noticing her changed expression. Amelia set the phone down, screen face down. Just Someone from my past who hasn't yet accepted their place in it, she said quietly. Tomorrow would be soon enough to decide whether Richard Barrett deserved even a moment more of her attention in a life that had finally, beautifully, become entirely her own.